Hi, welcome back to Christine's Home Affairs. We are in our table tennis and dance studio at the moment, and Coco's in here as well with me. I've brought you in here because it's the only room I've got that's big enough to show you the quilts that I'm going to be showing you in this video. Now, the reason I'm showing you those is because some time back I asked you to ask me anything and I would have a chat about it. So I'm still going through this list of questions, and to be honest, I actually lost the book that I wrote everything down in, and it took me a little while to find it. I finally found it today. So I'm going to finish answering the questions that you guys have had for me, and in one of the questions or comments that I received in a video, a couple of people have asked to see my work, in particular the quilts that I've done previously. So another question I was asked is how I got started in this business as well. So I guess I'll start with that because it relates to my quilts. For many years I did normal, day work like a bookkeeper or computer work and stuff like that. And I've also been a checkout chick and, lots of other jobs. But my dream was always to have my own fabric and sewing shop. And I ended up getting that when I was about 38, I think. So I used to drive by this fabric store and on the way to work, and I always said that when these people got old and retired, I wanted to buy it. And that's exactly what happened. The place came up on the market. I stupidly went in and bought it lock, stock and barrel, paid the price that they asked for, and I'm here now. So the reason I say stupidly is because it was a dream I had for such a long time that I paid the asking price that they asked for, and the fabric that they had was old. It was really old stock. Their goodwill wasn't that great either, so I had to bring the business back up. And it was just really old. It wasn't very nice. It was certainly not worth, I think it was $32,000 way back then. It was certainly not worth what I paid for it then. So the business was only a wool shop and dress material and a range of haberdashery. I ended up over the years building it up to become a really big quilt shop. I used to do classes and quilt shows. I used to go to shows and set up a table at quiltings, local quiltings, when people would ask me to come there. And I used to occasionally go out with Mum for 3-day events to trade shows or craft shows. So it was a lot of fun. Anyway, I built it up to be a decent quilt shop and also the dress material as well. I got a lady in to come and teach how to do dressmaking, and I went off to classes and learned how to do quilting. So I'm going to show you the very first quilt that I made, and it actually started before I even got into the business to begin with. My sister and I had gone to a local quilt shop, and we just bought some calico pieces and some books on candle wicking, and this is the very first quilt that I made. Now, I actually didn't make this until many years later. So this is a candle wicked quilt, and each individual square has different types of Australian flowers on there. Bottle, brush, wattle, things like that. And this was actually made with calico. So calico, is a beigey colour. The reason this is green is when I had all of my squares sitting in a bag with my candle wicked cotton, everything was sitting there, and I used to have a cat. The cat peed on my fabric. So I had to wash it all, and then I figured I might as well dye it. So I dyed the fabric, ended up putting this green border around it, and many years after I had actually finished the quilt, I had paid somebody to quilt it for me. So that was my very first quilt. The candle wicking was done by hand and the piecing was done by machine. Ironically, the lady whose quilt shop we had gone to buy these fabrics on a whim just to make something, she ended up being my quilting teacher. So that was quite a few years later. So that was my first quilt. I promise I did get better. But look, being my first quilt, it's one I'm always going to be fond of. I'll never get rid of it. I don't use it. I just have all of my quilts in a box. But yeah, it's probably my favourite. Well, it's not my favourite. It's the one with, I guess, the fondest memories. So back to the question, how I got into the business. I bought my sewing shop, turned it into a mostly quilt shop, used to offer classes. So I used to do a lot of night classes and some daytime classes, which were a lot of fun. And it was always my dream to have more than one store. So I was in a small country town. I had always wanted another store or maybe a little franchise of stores called Stitch This, which is my current business name. And I wanted my second shop to be in a town called Nagambie, and it's actually the town that I have my shop in now and where we live. So that part of my dream has been realised, which is fantastic. But I didn't know at the time that buying a fabric business was going to sap all my finances. It nearly set me broke. It probably did. I was in a bad way financially. I did have my first store. I opened my second store in Nagambie. The day my first store in Kyabram had died was the day that the town died financially. There was a big financial crash just locally. And I remember the day that happened, and from there it just never recovered. So I had persisted with opening up the store in Nagambie, and that never really took off because for other reasons. It probably took me about 5 years to come to terms with not having a very viable business. So once I made the decision to no longer sell fabric, that was it. I just went cold turkey. I sold nearly all of my shop stock, sold the fabric to other people in other stores and my haberdashery to other people and on eBay. And I haven't looked back. So now I rescue fabric or reclaim fabric. I've gone from buying everything brand new and working with only brand new products. I very, very rarely sold products that I had made. I would occasionally make a bag here and there, but I never had the confidence to be able to sell my products. It wasn't until I actually started reclaiming fabric, and that happened by accident. Somebody came past who was local and asked if I wanted some of these sample fabrics that he had, and they were all upholstery pieces. And they were very plain. They were only about this narrow but long, so I just made some unlined zippered pouches. They started selling, and I also made little lavender pouches as well because the fabric was plain and uninspiring. I've learned a lot since then. Some of the ugliest fabric bring you a lot of joy when you can think of a project to make that ends up being a really good seller, like the book pouches that I've been making recently. The fabric was ugly to begin with and just on its own, but turn them into book pouches and they sell. It actually changed my business completely. Everything turned around financially. Chris also encouraged me to get into second-hand goods, so I got my second-hand dealer's licence, started buying second-hand jewellery on eBay and selling second-hand jewellery. And then I ended up buying other household goods and things, and the rest is history. So selling the second-hand junky bits and making products with reclaimed fabric completely changed the course of my business. And also I started doing alterations as well. Alterations were something that I used to actually pay somebody else to do for me. I wouldn't even fix my own clothes or my kids' clothes. I'd send it off to somebody else. I moved to Nagambie and there was a need for it, so I ended up taking in alterations, and that helped as well. So those three things, alterations, jewellery and making things out of reclaimed fabric, has really changed my life and my business going forward. And even YouTube as well. So that was a big answer to one question, I think. Let me show you something else. One of the other questions that I had was, do I have a key fob purse, I think it was. And another question that I had was, do I ever make things that I don't show you? Yes, I do. And this is one of them. A few years ago, I made these little purses, and these were my key fob pouches. I actually did a video showing you how to make the pattern, fully line it and everything, and all of the audio was lost in the video. So all I had was video, no audio. I couldn't present it to you. So that's been sitting in the cupboard for the past few years. I do hope that one day I'll actually get the urge to redo this video. So that's my unfinished project and the key fobs that I have been wanting to do for a long time. I used to love designing quilts. As a quilt shop owner, you would have to make up lots of kits to be able to encourage sales. So I would go and design quilts whenever I could. And this one here is done with, is it Civil War type fabric? So I call this quilt, it was my own design, and I called this the broken wheel. And the reason I've called it that is because if you're familiar with quilts and you know the pattern, the carpenter's wheel, I think it's called, this pattern actually, if you turn it the right way around, or the triangles, if you put them all the right way around, it actually creates a carpenter's wheel. But I made the pattern with all the wheels broken. So that's my carpenter's wheel quilt. One of the favourite things that I love to do is hand sewing. And when I had the opportunity, or when the pattern came along for Celtic work, or Celtic, I don't know whether it's Celtic or Celtic, I made this table runner. So this is all done with bias binding strips, and it's all hand stitched in place. So I really love this. I do use this at home, and I've done a nice big Celtic cushion with these sorts of designs. Andrea has asked, can I make a banana shaped fanny pack, and will I do a tutorial? I hope so. It's actually been on my list to do for well over 2 years. Every time I see somebody has done one, I think I've got to get in and actually make that. But it's just one of those things, I've got to get the measurements right. And this year hasn't been the greatest year for me. So he's hoping that next year I might actually get onto that, or even a few of them, and make some bum bags or fanny packs. Interestingly, for those that are in the US, you all call them fanny packs. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know what the word fanny means in the US or in America. Is it a bum? I don't know. But in Australia, it's not. So we would never call it something like that. In fact, it's something I won't even talk about here. The Aussies will know. We call them bum bags instead of fanny packs. But we know what you mean. You know, I'm throwing these quilts on the floor after I show you, and Coco's running around screwing them all up. And I know that you guys that are right into quilting are going to be cringing at that, but she's having a wonderful time. This quilt that I'm going to show you is another one of my own patterns, and I think I've got it on my website. But this one here is Mum's quilt. She used to come to the quilt shows with me, and I would throw her in at the deep end and just say, here, teach somebody how to do this. We would do a lot of English paper piecing and other quilts. But anyway, this is one of the quilts that I had on display, and I'm going to show you Mum's quilt first, and then I'll show you mine. So Mum's done hers with black and white fabric. This is a really large queen size or a king size bed quilt. So it's absolutely enormous, all black and white. And I'll show you the quilting on the back, because we did get this professionally quilted. So the quilting on that was done by a local lady as well. So that was one of Mum's quilts. I'll throw this on Coco now. Buried the dog. Laurie has said, I make all these things and can't sell a thing. Etsy, the market is flooded, things don't show up until page 10. Then the buyer stops looking. Are there any tips? I've tried Etsy and I've had absolutely no success whatsoever. I haven't heard good reports about Etsy themselves, so I really can't say how or what you should do to try and improve your sales on Etsy. Those sort of selling platforms are changing a lot. I think a lot of people have to sponsor or pay for advertising and stuff, and that's not the reason why we get into these homemade websites in the first place. So sorry, I can't help you. Facebook groups are a good way to start selling things, but other than that, I don't have any idea at all. I've been really lucky, and if I didn't have my shop, I would actually be going out doing markets, and that's what my plan is if I don't ever have my shop to go to on weekends. So that quilt that I just showed you, still can't remember what I've called it, but it is on my website. I really love the soft pastels in there. So that's the same size as the one of Mum's that I've shown you. And once again, the quilting on the back looks amazing as well. So it was quilted by the same lady, a local lady in Kyabram. Several people have asked, where do I get my samples? So I get these upholstery samples, and whilst I was over getting that, I found another table runner. So I'll quickly show you this one. This was a purchased pattern that I used to sell in the shop, so that was a very popular one. I don't remember what it was called though. These were well over 10 years ago as well. So upholstery fabric samples, this is what I collect. I salvage wherever I can, and I've done many videos on how to source fabric or how to get fabric for free. So the best thing you can do is look up online in your local area for people that do upholstery repairs. So if you've got somebody that repairs old furniture and they put new fabric over the top of that, quite often they'll have fabric offcuts. Go to big furniture stores like Amart or Harvey Norman, anywhere that sells brand new furniture. They quite often have samples exactly like this draped over their furniture, and every few months they get discarded. So ask the furniture stores for fabric like this. I don't really know anywhere else you might go. My journey into reclaiming fabric was purely by accident. A local person bought me those small pieces. Eventually they told me that they had about 28 rolls for me, and that turned into 2.7 tonne of fabric on rolls, brand new, and then another truckload a few months later, and I haven't looked back since then. So yeah, you've just got to look around and have the courage to ask and be prepared to be rejected, because people don't think that there's actually a need for this. So they just throw it out. So yeah, just have a go. Maxine asked, how do you fit the lining? Mine always seems to be baggy. Quite often mine is as well. I find that the looser weave that a fabric is, the more baggy it's likely to be, and I think that that could be that it might stretch a little bit when we're working with it. I don't know if that's the case, but I've found that if the fabric is more crisp, then it tends to sit better as well. So I guess, having said that, you might want to spray starch, but then that's just a whole other thing that you've got to do. I couldn't be bothered. But you could just come in a little bit more with your seam. So if your seam is 1/4 of an inch, come in 1 or 2 threads further with your stitching, and that'll give you a tighter fit on the inside, or a less baggy fit on the inside. This is another quilt that I designed myself, and this is made with English paper piecing and squares on point, and a little bit of embroidery as well. I loved the fabric. It's like a 1930s fabric, and I absolutely love this. It's a huge quilt. I don't know why I go and make things so big, because I don't use them. But that is the quilt. I'm just not tall enough to show you how they look. But it is one of my favourite. And unfortunately, Chris and I don't really use quilts on the bed. The quilting on the back, again, is done by the same lady in Kyabram that's done, I think, nearly all of my professional quilts. She's done a beautiful job. And there's one more that I'm going to show you that's my absolute favourite quilt that I've ever made, and the quilting on there is to die for. Those things are heavy. Many people have asked, what do I like to sew the most, or what is my favourite thing to sew? My favourite thing to sew, well, I love hand embroidery. I don't get to do that much these days at all. I haven't done it for years, but I do love hand embroidery. My favourite thing to sew is clothes. I haven't done that for years. So I used to do a fair bit of my own dressmaking, and you guys have kept me so busy with bag making that I haven't had time to make any of my own clothes. I used to like drafting my own patterns as well. So I'm really hoping that I can get back into that. This year was actually my plan to do a little bit more dressmaking rather than just making bags all the time. But I've still got my business to run, and I still need to make bags for my business. So that's kind of keeping me busy. And then my health challenges this year have kind of slowed everything down, which I'll talk to you about in a minute because you have asked me about that as well. How did I learn? Well, a lot of it has been self-taught, although I did have a few classes here and there, and like patchwork classes and some dressmaking classes, but most of it is self-taught, and with YouTube now I can learn a whole lot more about what I should or shouldn't be doing. Do I do knitting, crochet or any other crafts? I used to do a lot. When I first bought my fabric store, I was so excited because I thought, yay, I can sit down in the shop all day and just do my tapestries. And I thought that's all there was. I used to knit, I used to crochet. I did get carpal tunnel, so I couldn't knit as much, but I would still love to crochet. Used to love knitting stripy socks. And I love doing tapestries and cross stitch, so I used to really enjoy doing those. Haven't done those for years though, not since I started getting into patchwork fabric and quilting, and then more into dressmaking, and now into this YouTube bag making business, and also making the bags for the shop. Somebody else has said they would love a backpack and a dog coat one day. Coco's a bit chunky for me to be making dog coats for, and she doesn't like them. So yeah, I'm not really inspired to make any dog coats. And backpacks, yes, definitely. I have made a couple previously, well, years ago. So they take a little bit more time to work out, so I try and keep my things simple at the moment. So yes, I will be doing backpacks in the future. I'm going to show you my absolute favourite quilt. It wasn't one of my designs. I think it's actually from Sweetheart Houses, or that could be the name of the pattern. I did this probably about 14 years ago. And I actually, when I had long hair, I actually stitched some of these appliques with my hair. So I used my hair as cotton. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I do anything sometimes. But anyway, this is my absolute favourite quilt. Sweetheart Houses, and it's all needle turn applique. So you can see the shapes in there. All of those edges have been turned under, so there's no raw edges in there. And I use a really nice silk thread when I do my applique. So I really do miss doing work like this. This one here was professionally quilted by the same lady, and the quilting on this is absolutely amazing. So you can see each individual house has been quilted in a different way. It just really brings out all the houses that you see in there. So that was an American designer called, and I think the pattern or the designer was Sweetheart Houses. I've got other quilts to show you, but they're getting a bit heavy and I'm getting tired of talking. And I think I'm down to the last couple of questions. So, what's my most popular video? The most popular video that I've ever had is my supermarket shopping bags. Now, I've done the video a few times because I did batch sewing, and then I did a video like 5 years ago, and it was 5 years ago, and it was probably one of my first videos. And when I had a little bit more confidence, I redid the video. But there was one batch sewing video that I did, and that's just clocked over 500,000 views. So that's my #1 video of all of the videos that I've got on my channel so far. The last question was, how am I going? I'm doing well. I'm up to radiation therapy. So I've been going through cancer all year, and it's really thrown a spanner in the works, because at the beginning of the year, I was counting all of my stock that I was making. The first month I'd got over 130 items produced for the shop, and after that it just died. I think I've made about 300 or 400 products this year though, so I did manage to get some work done. But yeah, I've been going through my breast cancer journey this year. I've done all my chemo, well, most of my chemo, lost all my hair. It's growing back now, nice and thick, and I've had my breast surgery. I'm halfway through my radiation therapy, and after that's finished in a few weeks' time, I will start another course of chemo, which is just tablets, which will take about 18 weeks. And hopefully by January, I'll be done and dusted with everything, and then I can just get back to my life, back to making fanny packs or bum bags and key fob bags and all sorts of things that I've been wanting to do for the past 12 months. So I hope you have enjoyed listening to me waffle on. I am going to get right back into my sewing room and see what other bag I can come up with today. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I shall catch you next time. Bye for now. And as I mentioned, I've just been throwing my quilts on the floor, so Coco's tangled them all up, and I think she's ready to go to sleep now. Aren't you, Coco? Hey, Coco, do you like those quilts? Say bye for now.